What does it sound like when an empire of hatred draws its final breath? Not the booming of cannons, or the sirens, or the cheers of liberators, but the silence that follows. The silence in a concrete room deep underground, on a muddy roadside at dawn, in a guarded bedroom where even the air feels frozen with fear. This is a story about endings, the very last moments of the men who plunged the world into darkness, and the words, the whispers, the commands, the choked silences that they left behind as they exited the stage of history. These are details pulled from the very edge of the abyss. Adolf Hitler. By April 1945, Adolf Hitler's world had shrunk to 18 cramped, damp rooms, 55 feet beneath the burning city of Berlin. The air is thick with the smell of diesel, sweat, and cyanide. Above him, the Red Army is crushing street by street. Here, in this concrete tomb, reality has become a distant rumor. His last day is a macabre ritual. In the early hours of April 29th, he marries Eva Braun. There is no champagne, only a grim formality. Then he sits to dictate his final political testament. This is not a confession. It is not an apology. It is a last furious act of blame. His voice, once capable of whipping millions into a frenzy, now dictates to a secretary. The war was wanted and provoked exclusively by those international statesmen who either were of Jewish origin or worked for Jewish interests. I die with a happy heart, aware of the immeasurable deeds and achievements of our soldiers. The efforts and sacrifices of the German people in this war have been so great that I cannot believe they have been in vain. The goal must still be to win territory in the East for the German people. But the most telling line, the core of his crumbling ideology, the people have proven themselves weak, and the future belongs solely to the stronger Eastern nation. After all the sacrifice, all the blood, the failure was not his, it was theirs. The German people were not worthy of his genius. Then, in his personal will, a final brittle demand: he must be remembered as a man who never surrendered. Hours later, on April 30th, after a hushed lunch, the newlywed Hitlers retire to their private sitting room. A single gunshot cracked through the stale air. When his aides enter, they find Hitler slumped on a blood-soaked sofa, a bullet through his right temple. Eva Braun is beside him, dead from cyanide. True to his last wish, he did not surrender to his enemies. He surrendered only to his own hand. His body, doused in gasoline and set aflame in the garden above, leaves no martyr's tomb, only ash and a legacy of unprecedented ruin. Benito Mussolini. Just days before Hitler's death, another dictator was running for his life. Benito Mussolini, Il Duce, the man who invented the fascist pageant that Hitler admired, is now a desperate fugitive. Disguised in a German greatcoat and helmet, he tries to slip through partisan lines near Lake Como, hiding in a convoy of retreating German soldiers. On April 28, 1945, at a little checkpoint in the village of Giuliano di Mezzegra, the game is up. Partisan commander Colonel Valerio pulls him from the truck. With him is his loyal mistress, Claretta Petacci. She could have fled. She chose to stay. They are taken to the gates of a nearby villa. This is not a trial, it is a sentence. According to multiple partisan accounts, Mussolini, knowing the end has come, tries to control one final thing: the manner of his death. He tears open his jacket and shouts, "Shoot me in the chest!" He wants to die like the soldier he always posed as. His request is ignored. The partisan raises his machine pistol. The bullets strike Mussolini in the head and chest. Claretta Petacci is killed a moment later. But the story and the insult do not end there.
Their bodies are transported to Milan and dumped in Piazzale Loreto, a square where the Nazis had once executed partisans. A crowd gathers, they throw vegetables, they spit, they fire bullets into the already dead Dulce. To ensure ultimate humiliation, the corpses of Mussolini, Petacci, and other fascist leaders are hung upside down from the girders of a petrol station. This is the final brutal image of Italian fascism, not in glorious marble, but dangling, lifeless, before a vengeful public. The man who demanded a soldier's death received a criminal's execution. Joseph Stalin. March 1st, 1953, a country house just outside Moscow. For 3 decades, Joseph Stalin ruled the Soviet Union with a terror so absolute it froze the soul of a nation. His word meant life or death, and on this night, death came to him, not with a bang, but in a terrifying, lonely silence. He dined with his inner circle, men like Beria and Khrushchev, who laughed at his jokes and watched him like mice watching a cat. After they left, he retired to his private quarters. Sometime that night, a cerebral hemorrhage struck him down. The man of steel lay paralyzed on the floor of his study, in his own urine, unable to speak or move. Here lies one of history's chilling details. His guards, trained to never disturb him without summons, saw the light under his door, unchanged for hours. They heard no movement. But to enter uninvited was a punishable offense, potentially a death sentence. So they waited. They paced. They whispered in panic. For up to 12 hours, the most feared man in Russia lay helpless, while his protectors were paralyzed by the very fear he had instilled in them. They finally dared to enter only the next evening when a stack of urgent documents arrived from Moscow with no response. What they saw next has become the stuff of historical nightmare. Stalin was on the floor, barely conscious, but as they approached, he made one final supreme effort. With a weak, trembling hand, he raised his left arm. Some accounts say he pointed at the ceiling, others that he pointed at them. His face was twisted, his eyes held a cold, terrifying stare. It was not a plea for help, it was a final act of accusation, a last gasping attempt to command and condemn. He died 4 days later, on March 5th. That raised arm, that silent, terrifying stare, was the perfect, horrific end to a rule built on paranoia. In his final moment, even his own guards saw not a dying man, but the vozhd, the boss, trying one last time to pass a death sentence. 3 tyrants, 3 very different ends. One by his own hand in a pit of his own making, cursing his people. One cut down by the very people he scorned, his body denied all dignity. And one left to choke on his own terror in a silence so profound it exposed the rotten core of his system. Their last words, whether spoken, written, or gestured, tell us more than their grandest speeches. They reveal the ultimate bankruptcy of their ideas. In the end, there was no glory, no noble sacrifice, only the grim, inglorious, and often sordid sound of an ending. And from that ending, a weary world was forced to begin again.